the drop down and then just untoggle it.
Stop.
You untoggle it.
Terminate. We've terminated Facebook. I like it.
I think we might be live then.
Oh, okay.
Let me double check on.
It does say recording and live going.
Let me go to the channel to see. So
if the kernel's on, then we're live.
Yeah, we are live. Yeah, we are. Okay. All right.
Oh, is that?
So I'll do the intro. So we are live. No one's on. Oh no, we already have one listener. Look at that. That was me.
Oh, I forgot.
All right. All right. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody. Welcome to what is the show? ATL on Fire podcast show where we talk all things soccer. It's been a while, Dave.
It's been a minute.
Did you forget the name of the show?
I did. ATL on Fire. I did. Well, we did. We just redid our intro. We did like 20 takes. Dave is frustrated with me not being able to read scripts. But you did bring wine.
You're a genius.
You did bring wine.
Yeah.
So I should have been the one who brought wine, right? Though.
Yeah,
I lost a bunch
Ooh,
of
I
bets.
forgot about that.
He lost the double
I
wine
feel like there's
bet.
double really good wine.
He had Miami versus the whole field.
It still was the right bet.
Oh.
It was.
How can you say that after they lost?
I mean, all the stupid bets Mikey Dobbs make, the one that makes sense is the one that like gets him, like, kills him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
So, what's everybody been doing? Eating too much? Drinking too much? Been in Cancun? What's going on?
Ooh, Cancun, please
Yeah.
do tell.
Well, it's a small junket to Cancun. Why
Sounds
not?
good.
Hey, that sounds good.
By the way, the wine that we're drinking, Freak Show, is from Lodi, California. It's a Cabernet. What do y'all think?
It is very nice.
Very good.
I got this
Delicious.
because the club has been a Freak Show.
What type of wine is it?
It's a Cabernet.
It's a Cabernet.
It's a California.
It's
It's a
very-
big old
very
California Cabernet.
Okay.
That's good.
Well,
Which brings us to our sponsor.
yeah. Let's let's go to the wine sponsor. We've got of course Wolf Mountain Vineyards up in Dahlonega, the Dahlonega Plateau. Again, probably a little chilly, but you could probably find a warm weekend to get up there for some wine tasting.
Yeah, I don't know if you all know, but this year, Brandon and I, Brandon being the proprietor of Wolf Mountain Vineyards, we collaborated with our vineyard. We have the four different blends going this year. 100 bottles.
Did you get any juice yet?
Yes, it's
Oh,
all
you did?
done. It's in the
Oh.
barrel.
Oh, it's ready to go.
It's aging. We had the tasting, and we made 4 different blends. We have we have Norton and Cabernet. We have Norton and Cabernet Sauvignon, Norton and Cabernet Franc.
Yeah.
And then we have a 4-part blend with Norton, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Syrah.
Okay. What are the ratios there?
A lot of them are the 50-50. One of them is 80 Norton and 20 Cabernet Franc, and then the 4-part blend is a little higher Cabernet Franc.
Okay.
So
So
they're aging, not to be ready until next Christmas.
and if you're a beer person,
Yes.
Dave, I don't know if you've made it to the new Wild Heaven Toco Hills.
I may have been there
location.
once or twice or
Wild
15 times.
Wild Heaven
What is
Brewery.
that?
3 locations now. There's one here in Avondale Estates,
Yeah.
one on the West End, and now one at the Toco Hills Shopping Center that has Fox Brothers barbecue that is phenomenal.
Yes, and they made a fireplace for us to podcast in front of.
I know.
So we presume the season opening podcast preview will be from
Wild Heaven Toco Hills.
That's right.
So Hayden,
Ooh.
let's if you're listening, let's get the fireplace ready.
We'll set that up.
Figure it out.
Very
All right.
nice.
So we obviously have a lot to talk about. We haven't podcasted in 6 weeks, and a lot has happened. We lost to Orlando City to bomb out of the playoffs after a miraculous run against Miami.
Yes.
And then we went into the off season and watched a little bit of the remaining, teams. And Dave, as you predicted, is one of the LA teams that
It was going to be
took
LA
MLS
or
Cup.
LA.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was LA.
Yeah.
Galaxy.
Yep.
Title winners.
It was 2-0 or 2-1 at the end. Ended up being 2-1 because I think
2-1.
I think
Galaxy.
Galaxy.
Yeah, they
was-
pulled one back. It
dominating,
was
but-
2-0 at the very beginning of the game, and then
Yeah.
they pulled one back. So it ended up being 2-1 over Red Bulls. Can you believe Red Bulls was our conference?
Yeah.
No.
Ew.
Oh.
Oh, mm.
Wah, wah.
So,
And despite the fact that LA Galaxy lost their best player, ACL injury in the semifinals, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
so do you want to talk a little bit about our falling out against Orlando City, and then any of the other games that you may have watched to the Cup?
well, I thought I'll go back to my notes on Orlando City, but it was not a great game. I actually thought, even the Miami games, we didn't play very well. We won, so that was good. But we played 5 in the back in Orlando, which I think makes some sense. But I don't really feel like we were ever really into it. I mean, the opening kickoff of the second half, do you remember? The ball got slammed into Rios's head and he had to leave with the concussion.
Did that really happen?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
And I'm sorry, but if you are Rios, I mean, I've been hit in the head like that a million times, and you obviously know it by interacting with me. But I mean, you have to push through that. I mean, you got hit in the head, but with the soccer ball.
So we lost Tiare, right? So Tiare had it wasn't even that, it was a foul on the counterattack, right? I thought he was going to be able to walk it off. He tried a little bit to walk it off and then limped off of the game. Then we replaced him with Rios. Rios at halftime, the first literally 3 seconds of second half, the ball gets kicked into his head, concussion, he goes out. And so now we're on our third string striker with 2 subs used already by the first, 30 seconds into the second half. So if there was anything else that would sum it up, it would be that.
And I'm trying to go back to that game. It was a bad foul on Tiare, right? That got him injured. Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, it was a bad foul, but I thought he was going to be able to walk it off. It was a counterattack, and it was a bad.
But they didn't give him a yellow or
no.
It was pretty poor, I thought.
Yeah.
That you basically took out our striker, and there was no consequence for Orlando City. I remember that really irking me in that game. So, yeah.
I think it was in the 60th minute you texted about Williams. Why is Williams risking a red card in that part of the field?
Yeah.
And I wrote, because he's an idiot. Probably should have been a red card. So that's basically how it went.
Like Bruno Fernandes today for Man United against my Wolves.
Yeah.
Captain of your team just does.
And I have to say, Valentino, I mean, we don't want to, beat a guy who's down or whatever, but the amount of time he waited to bring on Silva for Dax being down in that game, you're like, come on, let's go. We need attackers. But yeah.
All right. What else?
I thought it was I wrote, overall, it was a pretty terrible soccer match. Entertaining, yes. Quality soccer, not really.
Anything exciting in the MLS Cup after that?
There weren't really the epic.
There
weren't really the epic games that you've seen. Classically, MLS has had some crazy games where people scored 2 goals in the last 90 minutes, but it didn't really happen.
Yeah,
it was pretty pedestrian, actually.
And I would imagine it being on Apple's platform, hidden, that it probably wasn't a great ending for MLS and Apple with Messi not being in the picture either, and a bunch of B/C level teams ending up in kind of the last final 8.
There's 2 problems, I think. So one, people are complaining about the Apple streaming, and you have to have it to see the MLS. It's not just on regular TV where you're flipping through the channels and might see it. So that's not bringing in the casual fan for the final, which could happen. In the past, the final has always been on like ABC, I think, or one of the networks. So that hurts a little bit. And then the other thing is MLS, and they're dealing with this, the international break that occurs right in the middle of the playoffs, right? So we actually had super momentum after eliminating Miami. And then we had 10 days off because of the international break, and then came out a little bit flat against Orlando. So what do you think?
Obviously stupid. But here's what I said on a previous podcast is we know that Pro Rel is probably never going to happen ever in MLS, but
there soon
is a lot more talk and a lot of serious talk about moving to the European schedule, which would help sync that up and get rid of some of these crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the original argument was that you didn't want to play international schedule because you're competing week in and week out against NFL and college football, which is the biggest sports thing going. But the thing about it is, the weird thing about the current MLS schedule is the playoffs are competing against that. So maybe you take a little hit on the regular season. If you go to the international schedule and you start in the fall, you play through the winter, and the playoffs would then be in the spring, right? You take a little bit of hit on the normal schedule, like a little less audience when people are watching college football. But then when you get to the playoffs, there ain't nothing.
Well, I don't think so.
NBA a little bit.
We're not taking a hit because, as you pointed out, Dave, we're the second largest attendance of any professional soccer league. Yes. Of course, we've got 10 more teams or 9 more than other leagues, but that's still very impressive to be behind English Premier League. In terms of
fans in the stadium are really showing up.
So the fans in the stadium are going to show up.
Yes.
And everybody now is going to whatever app they want to. And so, yeah, people have their YouTube TV and their Hulu TV, and some people are still on Xfinity cable. Right. But the casual up-down clicker that's going to just end up seeing MLS or any sport, people, it's all on demand now. So either the whole idea of getting more people to tune in on whatever platform it is, like Apple TV, which is going to be the case for the next 8 years, that's
you really make a really good point, actually, with it being, on Apple TV, whatever. You're not. So one of the things that used to happen is that if you were going up against an NFL or college football game, you'd have to have it at a weird time or this or that. But with it not being on the same channels at all, you just have it the normal time. And the people who are watching MLS got to have the subscription. They're going to have it regardless, and they're going to watch. Right? It's not really you're making a good point. It's not really a competition anymore. Yeah. Even more of an argument to go to the international schedule.
Correct. Yeah.
Because the other thing that I want to talk about before we talk about Atlanta United, I want to talk about the Aiden Morris effect.
Tell me about that.
I know, dude.
Aiden Morris, a young super American.
Is it Jordan Morris's younger?
Is he
brother?
related?
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know that actually whether he's related. I don't think so.
Okay.
But anyway, Columbus Crew playing in the center of midfield with Nogby, their whole engine room. That team was humming. Yeah. They struggled a little bit out of the gate because they were playing in the Champions League, the CONCACAF Champions League. But then they got going. And Wilfred Nancy had them running, and they were the best team in MLS, right? Get to the middle of the season, and they sell Aiden Morris. Now, I'm perfectly fine with being a sell-on league, right? So I don't think a young Americans have to stay in MLS for forever. Yeah, no problem. But you cannot take a first place, or they weren't a first place, but they were moving towards first place, and sell one of the best players in the middle of the season. It just kills if you're a fan, you got it all running, and then all of a sudden they sold their best player. You'd be like, F off.
Do you think Atlanta United would have sold Almada in the summer, regardless of even if we were like in third
I would
place?
Have normally had said no way that they would have sold him and loaned him back or something like this. But this actually kind of indicates that, yes, the best teams are willing to sell their best players, even if they're in first place. Mm-hmm. And that would never happen in any other sports league in America.
Because what they got eventually with all the bonus and everything, Almada went for like $30 million.
Yeah.
So I think, that offer would have probably been taken, even if we were in, say, third or
so place. That's the other argument why you have to go to the international schedule, because otherwise all these clubs are going to continue to sell their best players in the middle of the season, and you have a first place team that's not the same team anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as we'll get to our new coach, Ronny Deila, right? Ronny Deila also left New York City FC in the middle of the season, right? Yep. Because he went to Europe, right? So even the coach left in the middle of the season, right? So, I mean, this is craziness, right? So they coming off winning the title, New York City FC, he won the title in his last year there, but he stuck around and then left.
Yeah. So let's get to the meat of this podcast. We have a new coach, Dave. Where do you? I mean, let's get right to it.
Ronny Deila,
right? Now, I think after researching who he was, right, the good news is for you and I, he checks a good bit of our boxes that we had been saying, we want a proven coach, somebody who's obviously been a head coach before.
So do you want to just back up and say, how do you feel about our approach in the search?
Well, this is what I'm getting to.
Okay.
This is what I'm getting to. So we wanted the boxes checked, right, of having a coach that had a proven track record, right? He was obviously a head coach in other major leagues that could be anywhere in the world, Saudi Arabia, Norway, Belgium, wherever, right? We just wanted somebody that, had some trophies.
We said more than two seasons of real track record of winning. Record. Yeah. Head coach
and
experience.
I had texted you. I said, well, this is before I really researched all the places he had been when they had hired him. I said, oh, well, it must have been a global search, Dave, because they've got a coach from Saudi Arabia and a Norwegian, right? And you pointed out that
I said BS,
just BS, just like Patrick Vieira, he had previous MLS experience, even though he was overseas as well. They started with the core of having to have been an MLS.
It seems like every manager we were linked with had MLS experience, and that is not a global search. I mean, not to say I would have preferred a guy with MLS experience for sure if you find the right coach, but I would have said if you get the best coach, as we did in year 1 and 2, Tata Martino with no MLS experience, just get the effing best coach and win the title, right? Like, who cares if they have MLS experience? We have Garth Lagerwey, and as we'll get to in a second, Chris Hnederson, who have the most MLS experience with dealing with TAM and GAM and all that crap. So why do you need the head coach to have that?
I never understood that. But the good news is we like what we see in terms of a resume. Yeah. And it checks Garth box of having MLS experience as well. But yeah, importantly, just looking at some of his track record, he seems like a coach that's very attack minded, has a high goal scoring percentage. I think like on average, it looks like, 1.5 goals per game across the 7 or 8 years of senior coaching that I was looking at. So good stuff there. But
yeah, you want to run through his resume?
Yeah, do it.
Through it. I mean, why not? Right. So for those of you all don't know out there, right? So he started out in Norway with 2 clubs. It was a manager. I mean, I'm gonna butcher the Stomskad said. I don't know what
that's our friend Hasse. That's his childhood club, and he's Norwegian. So
okay.
But he's coached 206 games there. And he 95, 41, and 70. Taking a team that didn't start out that well and doing really, really well, and ultimately scored over 2 goals a game and gave up 1.5. So that was a good record there. Then he gets a major job at Celtic, coaches 118 games there. 76, 22, and 20. Now, for those of you who are screaming out there, like my son, saying, wait, it's Celtic. They always beat everybody. It's not that hard to coach there. Yeah, but it's still a pretty good record. Did well in Europe as well at Celtic. Got them into Europe and went decently far. We'll get back to in a second, but why always leaving? I don't know. But then he went to Valerenga in Spain, coached 107 games, 43, 26, and 38. Again, all these, it's Celtic he had. I mean, good Lord. It's Celtic. They scored 2.23 a game and gave up 0.86.
Oh.
So that is a really good record. Yep. But even in Spain, right, with a lower club in Spain, he had a winning record. And 1.674 and 1.48 against. So, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then the question is, he comes to New York City FC in MLS. And the question is why? Right? What happened? Right? Why didn't he move on to...
Can you say the same thing at Tata? Also very short stints, but success.
Yeah, he got sacked at Barcelona, but that's because that's a crazy show there.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's finish and then we'll talk about it. But New York City FC... 90 games, 46, 15, and 29. Pineda, can you hear that? 1.9 goals a game for and 1.26 against. So in the year 2, he wins the MLS title. So he has won an MLS title. So that's pretty good record here, experience here. Then he moves to Belgium, 2 different Belgium clubs, Standard Liège. He coached his 40 games, had a great record, 17, 9, and 14. And then Club Bruges, also in Belgium, 49 games. He was 28, 11, and 10, right?
Okay.
before ultimately going to Saudi Arabia, where he took the huge contract and they sacked him after 6 matches.
Oh, I did not know that.
But that's why he was available to us. That's what's so crazy about the search too.
Okay.
First of all,
it just fell in our lap.
It just fell in our lap.
Yeah.
Like if we were like planning and whatever, no, you couldn't have planned for him because he was already coach. So they had no idea what they were doing.
I would love. Who do you think was their number one pick then up until him?
It was clearly Patrick Vieira.
But didn't Patrick Vieira take a job already?
Yeah, the reason why we didn't get Patrick Vieira is because he took a job in Serie A.
Right. So who was our up until Deila? Who was like these last few weeks? Like
nobody knows.
They had their list, right? But they said Deila and Patrick.
But their list couldn't have been that good because all of a sudden he becomes available and boom, they abandoned their list. So if they had someone on their list after that who they loved, they would have just kept gone with them.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense.
I think to me, the search looks like a total shit show.
Yeah.
Right. Like it ended up all right. We ended up with a great coach, but it was not good.
Wait, so what happened to Patrick Vieira? Because he was available.
He was available, but then before we signed him, he actually signed to be a head coach in Serie A in Italy, right?
Okay.
So the thing about it is, so thank God, Lagerwey was clearly giving Valentino every kind of rope to be the head coach, which I think is again bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah,
and after that all played out, and because he extended the playoffs, Vieira couldn't wait and took the job in Italy. Thank God, because Vieira has a terrible record, as we went over and over and over.
Lagerwey did. I mean, he was basically trying to gift him the job.
Yes.
Valentino.
Got
Well,
it.
he was trying to give terrible coaches the job, multiple.
Right.
So that's not good.
He gave Pineda, because of his history with him at Seattle, way too much rope. Gave him at least a year too much rope, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even people like Dave were soft on Pineda. So he's way too soft on not reading the record. And if this guy's a data guy, how is he not looking at the data?
Right.
It was bad. Bad.
So the only concern I have, so Deila can clearly coach. So he has won the title in Scotland, at 2 different clubs in Belgium, and in MLS. He has won league titles. So he has won the league title in 3 different leagues with 4 different teams. So that means he can really coach. The only concern I have is, why does he always move on? The question is, does he wear out his welcome? Right? He didn't do that in New York City FC. They really wanted to keep him and he left. But does he? And I thought mostly he was leaving just to go to the next higher thing, which I'm okay with. But I'm a little bit concerned, like the move from one Belgian club to another means he maybe wear out his welcome.
I think you're right. But this is the same reason I like Heinze if somebody's going to kick their grandmother to get the results.
Yeah.
I can tell he's got that same attitude by the interview.
Okay.
He is going to not let a Miguel Berry get minutes. He's that type of coach.
That's fair.
I can tell right away from his interview. He's like, if you're not making it happen, sayonara. So I don't know how he'll jive with Chris Hnederson, to your point, on like, will he rub people the wrong way? Because he is going to be a personality, Dave. I can tell you that.
Okay.
And I'm okay. Like, look, worst case scenario, he does amazing for 2 seasons, wears out his welcome and leaves.
Yeah.
We still do well for 2 seasons.
I will take that.
I'll take it. Yeah, for sure. I think it's a good hire, a really good hire.
Yeah, and after listening to the interview, I think it's even better. I really liked what I heard from him.
I mean, he did stuff at New York City SC that was amazing for what he had. They play in that stupid field. They had no chance to do anything tactically because they play on that stupid field at Yankee Stadium, right? Awful. They have the facilities there, terrible. They don't have actually the money to spend. So this is a dream here. He actually has a team and an organization, and if he can coach that way, even at New York City SC, you think that if we hand him a good team, he will win the title.
And he was asked this question about why he's got, he's jumped so much. And does he see Atlanta United being a long-term position? He said basically he would love it to be. I mean, he said he goes into every job thinking that, right? As I think you would want, right? But for one reason or another, because of, results or, the situation just not being good is as they would have hoped, he moved on. But at the same time, he was alluding to the fact, he's got a family that, I think wants to be in the States too. So I may have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said that I think this is a place that it sounds like he'd want to settle as well. So not a bad place to raise kids. Having
I don't believe it
myself,
but at least he's saying the right things. I'm playing the Mikey Dobbs role here. There's no way you believe that.
Well, if if the results are there, I believe it. If it goes bad, then
No, but I mean, you don't think that if he does really well, he's not moving on back to Europe?
Yeah,
or some whatever
exactly.
Job?
Maybe after 3 years, that's okay.
Yeah,
it's like the Billy Ray Billy Ray Cyrus of coaches.
Yeah, I like it. We have a studio audience today.
I know. This is exciting.
I don't have a camera for it, but
right. I don't need a camera.
Do we have any people? We got 4 people online too.
4 folks.
Yeah, so
4 folks. They're quiet though.
All right.
Chat with us.
Any
people.
questions? Put them on the chat.
Yeah. So I think definitely great hire, and now we can talk about the general manager and then the team.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about the technical director?
Yeah, technical director.
Yeah, Chris Hnederson. I am very curious of your opinion of that hire. He came from Miami. Was he there since the inception of the club?
No. Yes, I think he was.
Okay.
He's only been there like 2 years, but they've only been in the league 2 years. So it's possible they had a year before him.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
But so we still are looking for a GM, correct? That's the third spot.
I don't know.
That's yet to be
know
filled.
all this stuff. I don't know.
I am pretty sure from the interview with Garth that he was looking for a GM.
So what would the GM do that Garth Lagerwey and Chris Hnederson doesn't do?
I don't know. I mean, Henderson's job is to sign players, but yeah, as far as
Hnederson is definitely the TAM game MLS stuff person for sure. For sure. That's his. And Hnederson was a former US international, good player. I think he was a little overrated as a player, but anyway, for Seattle, he was their technical director or whatever. I don't know what his actual title was, but he was signing players for there and did really well. He worked with Garth Lagerwey at the end and then left. I mean, everybody says that this guy and his track record is terrific. So is Garth Lagerwey's. Garth Lagerwey has won the title at 2 different MLS clubs. So, as far as our front office is concerned, I would say awesome. I really have questions about Garth Lagerwey and I was not impressed about how they did this search and all this other stuff, but it's done and he got the right guy.
Yeah.
So now if Chris Henderson, we've got a foundation, and if we put we're 2 players away from being an amazing squad with an amazing coach.
Okay, so we have more GAM, general allocation money, which is just money that can be received many ways by MLS teams. You get it for being the worst team in the league, like Monopoly, pass go. You get some GAM. You get it for trading players and contracts and all this. So there's a lot of ways that teams can acquire GAM, but we have double the GAM of any other team here.
The greatest GAM around.
Yeah, and 2 designated player positions. Am I wrong?
We have 2, and it is even conceivable we have 3 because we have the ability to buy down Miranchuk.
Yeah, we have all this GAM to do that.
Yes. Okay. So we have 2 for sure. No problem. Can do anything. And for those, again, just so for those who are not really familiar with MLS, designated players are players that you can pay anything you want, their salary.
Yeah.
So there's a salary cap league. You can only pay a certain amount of salary for the total team, with the exception of your designated players. Then you can
3 players. You can
do whatever the hell you want.
Millions and millions and billions of dollars.
So we have currently 1 designated player, Miranchuk, and then we have 2 spots that were vacated by Almada and Gigi.
Yeah. So we also signed a player from Leeds United.
He came from DC United.
Did he come?
But
from
he
DC?
played for Leeds for years.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
So he was playing. He signed as a designated player for DC United. Played there the last year and a half.
How did he do there?
Did really well.
Okay.
He's done really, really well. I have no idea. I couldn't figure out why they wanted to offload him. He's 34, so maybe whatever, and they want to make space for the new guys. But he's done well. And here's the kicker, right? We convinced them to basically pay almost all of his salary. So we are paying. He was a designated player there.
Oh, really?
What's this dude's name? Sorry, I just gotta ask.
Matthias Klich. Klich.
Okay.
So even though he was a designated player there, he's not a designated player here. He's an international here.
Okay.
But because I think he's Polish. But he is a terrific player who's done really, really well over his career.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a star for Leeds.
At Leeds, he was an amazing player.
Yes. And he's 34, but he still clearly can go. There's no problem. He's putting up numbers even in MLS. And we got him for almost nothing. We gave him a little bit of GAM or TAM. Or
so, if he can play for a year or two, maybe the Dax replacement.
Well, I would say he's better than that.
Yeah, you want him to be the Dax Moyumba replacement.
Well, Dax was never going to be like a designated player kind of whatever. I mean, this guy's still a designated player kind of player.
Yeah.
So we got a designated player for free, basically.
And so you've got Marinchuk, you'll have Klich, and then you have Sleece.
Not the way I would do it, but I would have Sleece playing by himself, and I would play Marinchuk and Klich ahead of him. Now, that being said, we didn't talk about it, but Ronny Deila, I always want to say Ronny Deila, his classic thing that he likes to play is 4-2-3-1.
Okay. 4-2-3-1.
So he plays like a double pivot in that thing. I think Sleece is not best suited to that. So I think if you go with what his history is, you would say yes, that he would play side by side with Sleece. It would be Klich and Sleece. If it were me, I would play Sleece by himself as the younger guy who can just do it all. And then play left-footed, right-footed, Marinchuk and Klich in front of him. Those guys can play defense, but now they can go. I mean, that looks to me amazing midfield. Because those two guys, Marinchuk and Klich, can go box to box. They can hold up the ball. All they need is somebody who can finish.
Yeah. So quickly, who did we get rid of? We got Tyler Wolff is no longer with us.
Wolff is gone.
Rios is no longer with us.
I think Rios is gone.
And Tiare is still with us.
Tiare is still here. They re-signed him, so he's definitely for sure stay. The one who we don't know about yet is Silva.
And didn't the other goalkeeper retire? Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, the third string, Westberg.
Westberg's retired.
Fitton Westberg.
Yeah.
The third string goalkeeper.
Okay, we'll come back to goalkeeping in a minute. But so we've got all this money, Dave. Where do we need to spend it?
All right. Well, let's go through our team. Now, one thing I'll say about our team is the thing that you're looking at our team, you say, okay, in the back. We weren't great in the back, and we've done nothing to improve it. Right?
Ronald Hernandez is gone.
No, Ronald Hernandez re-signed.
Oh, he did.
Okay. He's back.
All right.
He's not gone. So we've done nothing to improve it. Okay. And player-wise, it's the same player. So it's Amador and Williams and Gregerson and Lennon would be the starters, you would think. Henderson.
Is Abram gone?
Abram is still here.
You sounded hopeful with that question.
And Hernandez is the backup on the outside. So it's the same back line. And the one thing that I said earlier in the podcast, we're talking about it is, so it's unlikely we're going to bring in a designated player. Nobody puts a designated player on the back line. It's just unheard of.
Okay.
I would still, if I were running the show, Abram would be gone, and I would try to upgrade to get a starting center back to play outside Gregerson, and Williams would be the backup.
Okay.
But at the moment, you say, okay, it's going to be the same starting back line, which means that you need a coach who can coach better.
Yeah.
Now, is Deila better than Pineda?
Can he coach up Cobb? Can he teach?
Cobb, I think, is an interesting proposition. He could step up to that role.
Here's the good news: if he doesn't tinker like Pineda did, I know Hernandez and Amador can play a little bit of defense.
Amador looks great. I mean, he looks like the best player on our whole back line.
Yeah,
he was a fine and a hell. We paid nothing for him, and he's great.
And I mean, they've kind of ruined Hernandez. He's gone backwards under Pineda.
Backwards for sure.
You know, and so if Ronnie's able to get him straightened out, we should be all right.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Gregerson is certainly talented enough. Yeah. I felt like under Pineda, he was starting to take a step back at the beginning of the season. Yeah. He was so aggressive on people. By the end of the season, he was. And part of the reason is that Williams the thing that I can't stand about Williams, and I don't know whether his coach can coach him out of it or not. He's old enough now that he should have learned it. But anyway, he just backs up all the time. The number of times that Williams never gets beat, but hugely kills us in the back line because he never makes a play. He just keeps backing up and backing up, backing up. And that, I think, caused Gregerson to have this moment, because if he was stepping hard and Williams is all the way back, it just doesn't work.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Williams, particularly like a ball got launched up and he's at midfield, he would give that guy, a 10-yard cushion.
I know, like a 60-yard ball up in the air. He lets the guy bring it down.
Bring it down. You're like, why do you not have an elbow in that guy's back?
Physicality and yours, that's his thing. Why not?
And I do think that's a very coachable thing. It's obviously, hey, you need to be putting elbow grease up on those guys every single time. Because then, let Gregerson track back and be the physical guy. Because Williams is a little old on the foot, and he's going to end up.
Yeah, Gregerson's much faster. Now, Gregerson, the weakness you would say is that he's injury prone. He's been injury prone.
Yeah.
He's not been out, but he's
got nicks and all that.
And you will worry about him playing day in and day out and whatever. But so that's a big question mark. So to me, if I were now, I guess it's Chris Hnederson, I would be looking for an upgrade over a Braum for sure.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
You've got to upgrade that.
Yeah.
So even if that upgrade is not to take, I would have said you want to bring in somebody with the idea that they're taking Williams' starting position. And then if Williams wants to fight and win it back, there's going to be plenty of times. Gregerson's going to be out some games. So you say to Williams, even if you don't make the starting lineup, you're going to get time.
So who else do we have on the roster right now other than Cobb that's like a realistic center back?
Not too much. There's Efrain Morales.
Yeah.
But he's super young too. And he looks... Efrain Morales looks to me like if I were coaching him, I might try to convert him to a defensive center midfielder because he's really good at reading the game. He's super aggressive. He's just not great one-on-one or whatever. He gambles too much.
Yeah.
For a center back, it's a little aggressive, but you can do that in the midfield.
Yeah.
So I would, if you're listening,
Efrain, he's a backup for Sleece when Sleece gets nicked up.
Yeah, because then if we move forward into the midfield, who's our backups in the midfield? Yeah. Well, we got Fortune. And we have Muyumba.
Yeah.
So both of those guys, technically, people will say are defensive midfielders. But if you listen to the podcast, we've been talking about how neither one of those guys can defend.
Yeah. No, they like to play free.
They're free.
They like to be free luxury players that can use some of the fancy footwork that they have. And, when Muyumba he's also effective defensively when he's buzzing around, putting, elbows on people. But again, he's got to be free to do that.
So I'm not really worried about it because my feeling is that Cleach can play that role. So if Sleece goes down or if Sleece needs a rest, you can rotate Cleach back into the defensive midfield and you can play one of the other players in front of him. There's plenty of Fortune, Muyumba, even Saba can come in there. My worry is, he's probably going to play double pivot is what. It's going to be really interesting to think from moment one. What am I going to be looking for in the first 5 minutes of the first game? I'm going to be looking, is Cleach and Sleece playing double pivot, or are they playing one and with two guys in front of them?
Yeah. And now when you watch a game, so explain people double pivot. So you've got your four in the back, right? So your two center mids and your right and left back. And in front of the two center mids, you have two players that you're calling the double pivot, which are defensive center midfielders.
Yep.
That read each other's movements, and based on where the danger is or where the ball is coming down the side, one of them goes to address the danger and the other goes and reads the danger on the far side.
So typically double pivots playing side by side, and this is where it gets confusing for most players. So if you're playing just one, right, then that player's job is to stay in the middle all the time and defend and find the most dangerous guy, and they go left, they go right, whatever the most dangerous is. Okay. A double pivot, they're supposed to be reading off one another. So one's forward and the other one's back.
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem with most double pivots is they play left, right, instead of like double pivot front back. Which so for example, if let's say Sleece and Cleach are playing the double pivot and let's say Cleach goes forward, right? So if Cleach is the right of the double pivot, right, then what should happen is that now Sleaze should go central or even right if he has to, if that's the most dangerous guy. But what tends to happen is the defensive midfielder says, oh, I'm the left guy, and they stay left, and then you're unbalanced. So the double pivot doesn't work for most people. Like, for example, if you go back to, the ultimate double pivot, which was actually a triple pivot with Barcelona and their great teams with Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets, right? All they did was read off of it and they triangled it, and it was always one in that role. And that person was always identifying the most dangerous guy and going there. And it didn't matter because they were just super smart about it.
So who are the team players for the double pivot? Like, who are the best two that actually work well?
So it clearly will be Cleach and it will be Sleaze. Those will be the guys, and they are both super smart. So if anybody can make it happen, they can. Yeah. And if he can coach it,
that's what I was going to say. Out of the players that can actually that are seasoned enough, you got a Polish international. You got Cleach, who's you said he's Polish also.
I think he's Polish too.
So are they teammates?
Yeah,
so they play together. So that might be a good thing too.
Do they play? You want to look that up? Did they play internationally together? They might.
I think they.
They might be playing together. So that's interesting. That would be helpful.
That would be helpful.
They can talk to each other in Polish. But the thing about it is, so the difference I would say is Cleach is 34, right? And Sleaze is 24 or whatever, like 25, whatever. He's really young. But anyway, so Sleaze can cover it all. And I don't think you really want Cleach doing that. So I would have said, look, place Sleaze behind him, let him go everywhere, and then just use the smarts of Cleach to say you cover off of him like a double pivot, but they start out this way. Sleaze goes wherever he wants, and Cleach just fills in that.
And I would be super happy if we didn't see, obviously, Abram or Williams, and we saw a lot more Cobb as the younger, more physical.
If we have the squad that we have, I would say yes. I would give Cobb every chance to win that. Yes.
Yeah.
Because he also seems Cobb in the box. The other thing is Williams is clueless in the box. He just goes to ball watching heaven. And for Cobb, sometimes a little bit too, but Cobb for a younger player is way better at seeking out the danger in the penalty area. So I think Gregerson could benefit of working on that as well. I'm not sure he's always the best there. I thought he was going to be better at that. But in any case, that's Williams is like,
all right.
Where'd Hollywood
So
go?
do you want to go around the horn and talk about who your known starters are and where our gaps are?
Well, so then we go to the front line, right? So obviously Saba is ever present, always everywhere.
You're hoping Silva is on the left?
Well, so I think they're big question marks. So clearly we have to sign a goal scoring forward. And the rumor is it's going to be Kyogo Furuhashi, who's Japanese, I believe. Okay. He's actually, ironically, the guy who took the starting position from Gigi at Celtic. Yeah. And he is a proven goal scorer. He has scored 20 plus goals a game, goals a year, every year in a decent league. He's good.
Yeah.
And he's only 29. So that's a legit player. And the other thing about Furuhashi is he's not the same profile. Right. He's smaller. Okay. He's a much more quicker guy in the box. Right. So that profiles as a team that's going to beat you, break you down through the middle. If you look at our team, that's what it looks like. Miranchuk and Cleach are going to play balls through you and beat you through the middle. Right. Or Saba is going to play. Nobody is going to go out wide and then cross it into Gigi's head. Yeah. Right. The only player we have would be Lennon. Now, Amador also can cross the ball, but he can get to the byline and find a cutback pass.
All right.
So anyway, Saba for sure. Tiari is coming back, but if Tiari is our starting forward,
no, he's a great number 2.
I think a great number 2. I agree.
Yeah, best number 2 maybe we've had
ever.
Yeah, ever.
If you talk about Miguel Berry,
okay, I'll take that.
Or Adam Jean. Let's see, can we run through them all? No, they were all Rios. They're all terrible.
As far as pure striker, absolutely the best number 2
by far.
And Rios might be our third in that category. Crazy enough.
Rios could score. The problem with Rios is that he just didn't have the pace or the movement to worry anybody.
He was like a Miguel Berry that could score.
Yeah. He was way better than Adam Jan and Miguel Berry.
Oh, my gosh. And then Tito
Miguel Berry couldn't even be offside.
Tito Villalba would have been like, he was more of a forward anyway.
He was an amazing number 2, probably was a number 1 in most places. So
Yeah.
that's a total different ballgame.
But
although crazy, when we won the title, he was coming off the bench in the last playoff game.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then the left, so you would say, okay, we've got to have a striker right now. You think it's Kyogo Furuhashi. If they don't get him, then somebody else. Yep. But if you get him, awesome profiles as the guy. And then left, so right now it would be Silva, but you have 2 designated players.
And as much as I like Silva, I do like Silva coming in at 65 minutes after somebody's worn him down.
Right. But Silva is vulnerable. What I would have said, I might keep Silva, but I'd take the designated player, and there in the second designated player spot, that's where you go wild card gambling to South America to find the next Almada.
In the attacking
because all those players like to be wingers who can dribble and do their dime a dozen. We got to find the right one, right? But that's what everybody loves to do, and that's the role we need on the left side.
Okay, so Jonathan Spector's down there in South America right now.
Could be.
Okay,
I think he's the wrong guy because he's Europe facing, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, they have to be both.
The question is, this is interesting. Do we have the pipeline anymore? The pipeline was established by Tata and also by Bocanegra, who's Spanish speaking. And the question is, do we have the South American pipeline anymore now that we have Lagerwey and Hnederson and Spector, all white European guys?
Oh, they should get somebody.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, they have somebody on that.
They have somebody.
Where's Justin at? I mean, somebody.
It hasn't all dried up, right, Carmen? I mean,
but that's what you would say is that's the one you can't lose.
Yeah.
Right. Because worst case scenario, because the other player we still have that we're holding in reserve is Mascara, who I think is an amazing role off the bench in one of those wide spots because he just brings pace and is scary coming off the bench.
Yeah. All right. Now, the glaring gap that we haven't talked about, which no one wants to talk about because he did play fantastic in the playoffs. He's big, he's bald, he's Brad goddamn Guzan. But it's okay. We don't need any buttons. We're bringing the fire. Brad Guzan is going to fall off a cliff real soon. As much as I love the guy, age gets age.
What happened to him?
He's old.
He's old. He played great.
I know he's old, but no, he had
Achilles.
Yeah, he did his Achilles a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
and to be fair, as Justin's pointing out, so he was actually when we really were calling for him to be done was coming off the Achilles, and he got better.
Yeah.
Now I think he's still a step slow, but he got better.
Yeah, so he had a great year all in all.
Yes, he did. Surprised us.
He's still one of my faverips.
Yeah,
well,
sure. He was a tremendous goalkeeper in his day.
Giant man.
Yeah,
there's a favorite, and then there's knowing when players are about to lose their edge.
Darn, I feel like I have to try it.
Age says it all. And what's he? 41, 42?
It's still there.
How old is Brad Guzan?
He's 40.
He's like 40.
He's 40 years
Let me
old.
look him
How
up.
old is Brad Guzan?
You're okay.
Yeah.
He's 40 years old.
He's 40 years old. Yeah.
That's got to be 40.
That's pretty old.
Well, for goalkeepers, they can do that.
For goalkeepers, like there's some really good goalkeepers even in Europe that will play till they're 42, and then that's really the
Buffon.
I was about to say Buffon's like the oldest.
Van der Sar, and these guys can play into their 40, but But what I would be doing if I were the club is I would be getting a goalkeeper. And even if you say that Guzan, I'm okay with Guzan being the starter in day one as long as there's someone challenging him.
Yeah, we need a real challenge.
And I don't think Cohen's the guy.
No?
He's a great shot stopper, but in the box, and even when he's shot stopping, he gives up rebounds. His hands aren't that great.
But to be fair, they never gave him minutes.
That's what I'm wondering. You got to give him a chance.
Once you,
but I watched him with the twos some too.
But
really?
Once you stop getting those top
it
level
is
minutes,
true, day in day out for a goalkeeper,
like you have to be playing at that level, and if you don't get those minutes, then
but I think not the answer.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at our roster, and Hnederson, I'm looking number one. You got to lock in the striker. Hopefully, it's Kyogo Furuhashi.
Yeah.
You roll the dice with some awesome skilled guy who can take players on as your new left of the front three, and then go get me a center back and a goalkeeper from Europe.
Yeah.
Center back and goal. Yeah, center back definitely. What keepers are out?
Like Matt Miazga, kind of guy when he came to Cincinnati off of the Premier League. Even a guy who played years in the championship, never quite got his, whatever, that kind of guy.
I think you can get a high-paying GAM salary for a really good goalkeeper, like you said, out of Europe, and not use that on a designated
The goalkeeper,
player.
you could get an American with GAM. You could get another MLS goalkeeper.
But I mean, to me, it has to be somebody who I would like to see.
Maybe they want to unload Zach Steffen.
I would like to see the next goalkeeper
because he can't play with his feet.
Be a 5-6 year goalkeeper, right? That's like, I think you can't underestimate how important a goalkeeper is to the rest of the team.
Amen.
They make such a huge difference for the way that the rest of the team plays with confidence. If you do not have a good goalkeeper that you're like, that guy's going to save my butt, then the rest of the confidence goes down and down and down a notch all the way up to the 4.
He has to be massive.
Yes. Yeah. Well, sometimes not massive, sometimes super long, like our Andre Blake, who's the best goalkeeper in the history of MLS by far.
But to Dustin's point,
and who completely bailed out his coach, Jim Curtin, who was the other guy that Lagergley was going to sign and turned us down.
Yeah. But to be fair, we do need somebody big that's over 6'2", right? There's almost no goalkeeper in the NPL that
you have to be. Over 6'2".
Don't get us no 5'10" goalkeeper.
Oh my God.
Like we don't need a Mike Dobbs back there.
Rios. Well, we had Rios Novo. I mean, if you want to know how idiotic Pineda was, right? He went with Rios Novo at 5'9" on a good day for multiple months, even after the club realized it and went and got the Mexican
I can't
goalkeeper.
Remember his name 'cause he never played.
And he was 6'5" and so much better.
I mean, made no sense.
What the F, Mikey Dobbs?
Yeah. But you have to get like somebody really, like good and confident in his like experience to replace Guzan.
We let our good goalkeeper who was for the twos go.
Who was that?
Yeah. What
Garth says or something.
Garth says, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We drafted him and then we let him go.
Because everybody online was talking about this guy, and I was like, well, I don't know anything about him.
He's also, 6 foot or whatever, but he wasn't super tall either.
And that's the problem.
I mean, he wasn't 5'9".
Guzan was one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
Like
Guzan 6'4".
Dustin, no one is good. He's a legend. He's the best goalkeeper Atlanta United will probably ever have.
We love him.
He's the U.S. men's national team.
Well, he's the only goalkeeper we've ever had.
He was a stud.
And what we got now sucks.
Well, he is the goalkeeper.
He is the goalkeeper.
So you've contradicted yourself. He is our goalkeeper.
Still, and he signed another year contract, so he's good with us for another year.
So he's going to be our goalkeeper next year is our point here. Yeah.
Right now, he's the starting goalkeeper.
He's the starting goalkeeper.
He
had an amazing season after coming off his Achilles injury.
He stood on his head against Miami.
Completely and totally.
And he single-handedly beat Miami.
Yes.
I mean, literally that one game unbelievable.
He was like in Messi's head for a second, I thought, honestly.
He was. I think he should retire because of that moment.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to go
away.
Drop the mic
on
that.
Because he's big, he's bald, he's awesome, but he's coming back next year. Yeah, he's coming back next year, and it might not be this year, but we already saw. We talked about in the podcast. You're already seeing moments in regular play where even the Braguzan of 2018 would have easily made the save, and now he's a step and a half behind. So anyway, we need a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, but don't get it twisted. The podcast loves Braguzan.
Yeah, do not get it twisted.
We love him.
We are in the business though of making hard decisions.
Yes,
right.
And the hard decision right now is
we're ruthless people.
Putting money into our future goalkeeper.
Yes,
and knowing the math of it, 40 years old.
Thank you.
It's likely not going to happen here.
It's like we've said, you're not old for this earth, but you're too old to be a goalkeeper. To be our goalkeeper.
Yeah, but when you're old like that, you got that grudge. Like you got that.
Well,
the problem is that he's like his actually shot stopping is okay. But he's like a step hesitant to come for balls, and he's sometimes late. And a number of times he's basically almost or has given up penalties because he's like, I'm not sure I can get there, and then he still comes and he's late. and is used to, you would get there for sure, no problem. And then that's a problem. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And he's just not same.
Thank goodness he didn't end Messi's career on that awkward one where he came back
out.
Yeah. You know, like that's like how you would hate to have seen him.
Also in the playoffs, he could have cost us, right? Even though he was the hero, right? With him punting, he gets bumped a little bit and he flails and falls to the ground. No non-39-year goalkeeper would ever done that, and they just kicked it counted for a goal. Now, thankfully, we came back and won that game.
Yes,
but that was shambolic.
Yeah,
I mean, and that was all him. Right, he's going to punt the ball. Those guys that don't remember,
awkward.
He gets bumped a little bit, and he's like, and he falls, and the referee's like,
"It's like
play on." They kicked it in the goal.
Right. It would look like me going to hit the big kicker out and
give him some oxygen. He'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Skiing out west, like coming up to a big jump, and then me like pulling out last second, and landing on my.
I mean, I feel like all of us. There were points during last season, and definitely the season before, where all of us in our old people playing soccer type thing, we could see it. That split second where your mind and your soccer mind knows what to do, but you know your body's old and it doesn't quite mesh, and you're like that half step slow.
Yes,
we saw it. We saw it like in his eyes.
Yes.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what sport
perfect.
You know that moment.
That was perfectly said.
Yes.
Carmen nailed it.
So, anything else with the new front office, the new coach?
Well, so here's a question I'll throw out there, right? So we all felt at the end of last season that our amazing fan base passion had died a little bit. We were never going to get 72,000. We didn't even 72,000 in the playoff game that we got at home.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Whereas if you go back to 2018, man, we were going to sell out every game at 72,000. So it's really died. Now the question is it back or does it wait until we're good to be back?
It's going to I think we've proven it can hold at the levels we've seen, which is, the 40 or so thousand will show up for most games. Yeah. I think we will not get back up to we're packing it at 72,000 until like we're exciting, attacking, competing team for MLS Cup. So I think if we come out, play exciting soccer, start scoring, and the train, horn is going all the time, that by the end of this next season, it'll start to feel like it's back. I felt like there were moments in some of those playoff games that Dave, you and I went to, Carmen, you were there, that the seed of us getting back to that enthusiasm is there, but you got to earn it. And, one game isn't going to do that, or one or two games isn't going to do that. You got to sustain it over a season that shows like, hey, this is an exciting soccer team. I enjoy watching them play. They score goals. We're not making bonehead decisions. I mean, it's easy for people to see when you give Miguel, Barry, or Rios all these minutes. And that's what Pineda was doing through his tenure. And I don't think that Ronny is going to be, from what I heard from him, I don't see him putting up with any of that.
All right. Well, but I agree with you that we would have to win. But here's the alternative, right? So opening day, you got to figure people's going to show.
Yeah.
New coach, new era, and new designated players who should be there, right? Presumably, we have the whole stadium open. It's Montreal. It's February 22nd, 7:30 night game, right? I think it's a Saturday night game, right? Awesome. Then we go on the road at Charlotte, and then we come back to play Red Bulls at home. If we win that opening game and we go on the road and win at Charlotte, is it now sustained?
I don't think 2 games is going to sustain anything.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, do they come and keep coming until we lose kind of thing?
I think the first quarter of the season, or the first third of the season, is everything. Similar to like how I talked about when Araujo, if it wasn't clicking, 1/3 into the season is more the magic mark to me than 2 games in. I think that first quarter is everything. Football is divided up into, clearly, 4 portions of the season. And I look at soccer the same way. If we don't have good momentum, we don't even have to, we might have some unlucky wins, but if we're playing exciting soccer and you see a system, if you see an idea that, Ronnie's trying to put into place and the product looks good, I think people here will appreciate and show up. And then 1/3 in the season, if you're not winning, it's going to wane off. It has to at some point translate to wins. And I say, how many games is that 1/3 in the season? So like roughly 10 games in the season. I think we'll know a lot.
Okay. I don't disagree, but I'm going to throw something else out there, right? So we have had a history of signing our major players, the Gigi's, Almadas, or whatever,
after the start
quite
of the
late, and they have not been ready for the start of the season. So the head coach is at least in place for it. I'm trying to look. When is I'm looking it up. Maybe you can look it up for us too, Carmen. Our first scrimmage is against Birmingham, right?
It has been historically.
I think it is. It's already been announced, so we know the date of it. I think it's late January, right? So we start training January 10th, something like this. January, in a couple weeks, right?
Yep.
So what's the chances we have a designated player or two designated players in place when we start training?
I say very low. I say there's a chance we'll have one. We have almost zero chance of two.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so does that hurt our opener?
Of course it does. But the good news is it is MLS, but I don't know what would hold them back if they already have identified some players, because you got to figure the scouting team has already been out there. They have a list for Hnederson to look at. They have a list for Deila to look at already that should be able to move them pretty quickly, right? If there's some people on that list, that Spectre and these people have been still working, right?
Yeah.
So the list should be long, right?
One thing I will say is I think I respect the fact that the club did not sign the designated players before the coach, which is awesome, because that's putting the cart before the horse, right? Even if you have the guy you think, right, I think you still want to sign off from the coach, because if the coach doesn't want to play that way, if the coach wants to only cross things in and you go get a 5'7" Kyogo Furuhashi, you got a problem.
But what do you think? It's also a bit of a problem that Deila also, I don't know how much film he's been able to watch. I mean, he must be cramming his homework in right now to see where, Sleece needs a cleash and how that double pivot may or may not work.
Right.
And where the gaps are. Like, do we need that South American left forward? And that's who we should be going after. We obviously need a striker. I think they said in the media interview that, they're looking for attacking players. So I think that's not a surprise. We want to get on the front foot. So a striker and a forward seem like they're obvious DP spots. Now, I wouldn't even mind if we were to put a DP spot in another center back. I'd be fine with that.
If we can get the right center back.
Yeah.
We need a guy. If you're going to get a center back, you need a guy who literally takes no prisoners and who's going to set the tone, a Sergio Ramos type.
Yeah.
Right. It's just going to be like, this is how the team operates. And if nobody plays to my standard, I will kick you in addition to the other team. Right. That kind of guy. So if you can get that as a designated player, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think
you got
that's
to figure
happen.
There's a lot of those in Europe, though, that are, 32 years old.
There's a lot of guys who will kick people. There's not a lot of guys who are talented and will kick people.
There are though. There are though, Dave. I know you're being tongue in cheek, but there are a lot. Right.
All right. So February 1st is our first scrimmage. Okay. February 1st. That means that ideally you want to have the team basically ready to go a week before that, something like that.
Yep.
Right. So designated players. I mean, we got a problem. We're going to be in the same boat that we've been in the past.
Carmen, would you pay DP money for like an insane goalkeeper?
Ooh, insane?
Yeah, like holy cow, we got that guy. Are you kidding me?
I think I would. Come on, why not?
Well, who's insane? So
it's hard. I don't know who's insane, but if they're insane,
the
I'll
US
take it.
national team goalkeeper who played for Arsenal and Nottingham Forest and is now adrift.
No, I don't call him insane.
No, but that's the kind of guy they would get as a designated player.
No.
Right? Oh, I wouldn't take him because
Turner?
Turner, yeah.
Right, Turner.
Turner, right?
Oh, Turner.
He would be the guy who's available. He's at Drift
Is he? Okay.
in Europe, right? Because he lost his starting position twice.
Yeah.
Probably would like to return and get a starting spot, because for him, he has to be a starter because we got World Cup coming up in a year, and he would, so he would take that job. Now, would you offer a designated player spot for Turner?
Yeah.
Really?
I would. I would.
I say no.
I don't think he's that good. I'm talking insane.
Yeah.
Like European insane.
This is MLS though. Like, I mean, a retiring Allison type of player at 40 is who I'm saying is insane, right? That would come for like 2 years, and that's all you're getting.
Yep.
Like Turner's only got two more years at peak going into the World Cup, and then he'll retire after that, or not play at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd be way happier with Turner than Guzan.
Oh yes.
But would you be designated player?
Player happy.
Now, the one thing here, I'll throw this out there.
Yes,
I'll throw it out there.
At that buy down level where it's like a lower salary.
Well, what I would say is, you could probably get him in a buy down designated player spot, but also you could potentially give him a designated player spot and buy down Miranchuk, and so you're not taking away one of the other two.
Which is
that I might be okay with.
And that's what I mean, because I think we can definitely, with all this game, buy down Miranchuk, which means we have 3 designated players.
That would be crafty.
Yeah.
I like that.
What? I don't even know what y'all mean. When y'all say buy down Miranchuk, what are y'all talking about? Like, what does that mean?
So from what counts towards the salary cap, right? So he has a certain amount of salary. So if it's designated player, he doesn't count anything towards the salary cap. But if you give him a lower designated player salary, which is what Miranchuk is, he's not on $10 million a year. Right. That means that if you use some TAM or GAM to buy him below a certain amount, then he doesn't have to be a designated player anymore.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
All right.
So it's like, if he gets paid whatever it is, I forget.
He still gets paid the same amount. Doesn't change.
Yeah, he still gets paid.
I see, but we're using
you throw that money into
the ether.
But it's
the salary cap what counts towards the cap.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right now, nothing of his counts towards the cap. But if he were not a designated player, all of it would count towards the cap, unless you can buy it down, whatever. And then because we'd be over the cap.
I gotcha. Okay.
All right. What else do we want to talk about?
We just need Zlatan. That's it.
Yeah, Zlatan. Ibrahimovic. Yeah.
Dennis Bergkamp.
So that's a good that's a good transition.
A face grabbing. Yeah. That's what we need.
Everybody needs Zlatan.
Everybody needs Zlatan in their life.
Yes.
So, European soccer. Did you watch any EPL today?
I watched your Wolves dismantle Carmen and I Man United.
Did you come back and watch it on replay?
No.
No. Yeah, you didn't need to.
I didn't need to.
Well, yeah.
Tuned it out when we got red card. I didn't tune it out just because of fair weather. I had to go. But
how about the meltdown of City?
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting thing. They haven't
won in 10 or 11 games.
This is a real tactical, interesting thing to discuss, right? Because Man City, Pep Guardiola is the best coach ever, right?
Maybe
he's
not.
We've always posed like if he didn't have like the right folks, would he be a success? Yeah.
When he was at Barcelona, he had. I watched some of the games that. I just watched some highlights of that team. Like you got Thierry Henry, you got Eto'o, you got. How can you not win?
Yeah,
even against Real Madrid, how can you not win 4-0?
Yeah, but then he goes to Bayern Munich and he does amazing, and then he goes to Man City, who wasn't winning, and then they win anyway.
Well, but let's look at the players he had at those clubs, though.
But the thing about Pep is it's a very, very tactically hyper aggressive scheme, right? Yeah. And I've always said this, right? It is sort of one brick away from all come tumbling down, right?
Yeah.
Because there are times you watch Man City and they have only one player, maybe 2 players left in the back, and they're keeping possession and they have a clogged midfield. So if it turns over, they have a guy to close down the first player, but they will often be leaving it like 3v2 against them in the back, right? With a very high line. So the moment you can't clog down that pass, if somebody has time to pick it apart, right, and there's a counter is on, you're dead. And that's why even in their best years, every once in a while, you'd see a Man City result where they'd suddenly lose 5-0, right? It would happen occasionally, right? Not very often, because what would happen is the high line would get broken down and you weren't really pressuring the ball anymore. And then they just beat the line, right? And then suddenly it's breakaway City, right? And at times they would get that and they get bailed out by Ederson every once in a while. Every blue moon they give up a breakaway, he still wouldn't give up a goal, which is amazing. But anyway, Rodrigo, who everybody complained was World Player of the Year, right? And Rodri, right? And
you're not going to say he's the brick.
He is the brick.
Oh God, stop!
So
it.
the moment
just stop it. All right.
The moment he goes down, the team falls apart. Now, to be fair, Pep Guardiola always in the past he's had times when guys went down. He had Robinho, and before that he had other players. I disagree
with this theory,
right? He always had players in there, right? Yeah. The other thing that he always had, there's two things that happened. He's not just one brick.
There's a lot of bricks that are falling.
Well, the other thing that's happened is he allowed his team to get a little old. And it used to be that even when the brick in the middle went down or there was a counter, whatever, the guys in the back could handle one-on-one because they were fast and physical and whatever. And they still have those guys, but they've been injured, right? So Ake has been injured, right? A bunch of their center backs have been injured. And those are the guys who can man up a guy. Walker's gotten a little older and suddenly...
Yeah. So my theory is that brick, if you're going to call out one brick that matters to your point, yeah. No, it's the brick they let go.
What's the brick they let go?
Brick Cole Palmer, right?
I had a feeling
but he never played for them.
Yeah, he was like never.
Didn't they own him?
They owned
him, but that was a brick they didn't put in, not a brick that fell out.
They were waiting to put the brick in. They're like, yeah, we're going to.
So they won the title without ever playing him 2 years in a row.
But as a matter, what is that? You need some fresh concrete in there in between the bricks.
There's a point to use. You were talking about
some new mortar.
Yeah, some new mortar, not concrete. Some new mortar, right?
And taking this analogy to its death.
Cole Palmer was clearly the future. If anybody was assessing talent, because that guy is insane.
He's insane.
But why is it that Pep wasn't like, we need to make room for him?
They also lost the thing that the reason why they really needed Cole Palmer is the guy who got old was Kevin De Bruyne.
Yes, there you go. There's the brick.
Is missing time. Brick. He's missing time, and when he's on the field, he's not as good as he was.
And that's my point about Brad Guzan. You got to make tough decisions, and Pep Guardiola is obviously you're saying like the ultimate here the bricks to play this high press. You got to.
But it only is a really, really big problem if it's a super hyper aggressive tactical setup, which he has. And then, you can suddenly fall apart like that because it one thing goes, whatever it is. And
more importantly than the brick conversation isn't it fun to watch?
It is. It's so much fun to watch. I love it.
I mean, the thing that reminds me of like Alex Ferguson, the last Man United team where he still won the title, right? And that team had already become a little bit old and all these other things. The sort of like Man City, but he still won the title. It was had them believing and coaching, and it was all whatever. The moment you lost a little bit of the coaching when they brought in Moyes, who's a good coach, it just fell apart.
What do you think about Nottingham Forest and the old Wolves coach bringing him up?
Nunes.
Yeah.
Espirito Santos.
Yeah.
Great coach.
We always said he was great. And now why did he fail at Tottenham?
I know. Well,
shitty mortar.
The Wolves should have never let him go, though.
No, but they had to because he got the big contract to move to the bigger club in Tottenham. Yeah. They didn't have a choice. But why did he fail at Tottenham?
But
I thought it was a great signing for Tottenham.
Tottenham was a bigger club, but I think that year he had gotten them into Europa League. If I'm not mistaken.
But in the league,
and Tottenham wasn't even in Europa League at that point.
No, they were coming off of Pochettino was the previous coach, right? Or was there somebody in between? I think they had a bunch of crazy. But anyway, I think that the reason why he failed at Tottenham is because of the Alan Levy, who's their Alan Levy. It's a guy I know. Levy, who's the was their owner, and he's notoriously cheap American and blah 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 blah. No, he's He's English.
Is he?
Yeah, Levy. Okay. Yeah, they've had him for years, and all these players who they built up, the Canes and the Sons and blah blah blah. He won't pay them, so they keep leaving, right? Anyway,
that's your mortar.
Yeah.
So,
but he can really coach, and I knew that getting him again, at Nottingham Forest, and they're what in fifth now, fourth.
Tottenham.
No, Nottingham Forest under Spirito
they're
Santo.
third, I think.
Third or
I mean,
fourth,
they
yeah.
are unbelievable.
I think they're
I mean,
above Wolves.
But
Or,
that's
I
what
mean,
shows you coaching,
Arsenal.
right? Because it's not like Nottingham Forest suddenly has the best team.
Yeah,
They've got good players, but
I think it's Liverpool.
Liverpool's running away with it now.
Liverpool, Chelsea, Forest, and then Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
that's coaching.
Oh, what do you think, Miguel Almiron? Any chance of signing him as a DP?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it turns out that Charlotte has to. So MLS-y.
Wait, what?
Charlotte has the first rights for return to MLS.
How is that
Wait,
possible?
what? For whom?
So they would have to pass on Almiron.
Wait, Miggy?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
It's MLS rules. They did some kind of trade along the way, some 8th round draft pick for the rights to re-sign Almiron, and they got it.
How dare they?
That is just a bad club. They made a lot of bad decisions during that whole era of.
Well, the thing that's crazy is that how is that even a thing? How is it even a thing that you can get somebody's first rights, whatever?
It's like Vegas. You can bet on anything.
No, but like transfer is like you're supposed to be able to just transfer.
Yes.
Like nobody should ever have. All right. Now, I understand the one thing they have in MLS, which I really like, is they have a thing where if you came to the academy and then you go play college soccer, that team has the first right to sign them as a professional. They don't have to go through the draft. So if we had an Atlanta United player, he plays at Clemson or North Carolina or whatever, and then it turns out to be great, we can re-sign him and he doesn't have to go through the draft.
Yeah, we had that Stanford guy. Didn't we get a Stanford guy?
Okay. So that I like. Right?
That's a crazy
but that shouldn't be for a professional Almiron transfer to Europe. But that's another whole
thing. Is Almiron also has to agree to go there, and so the chips are stacked against.
So Charlotte would have the first rights to him, but there's a rumor that Botafogo has made a big bid for Almiron in Brazil. By the way, Pineda, right?
Has he found a job yet?
Almada.
I'm frightened.
Right. So Almada gets signed by this conglomerate, right? They own Nice, I think, in France. Is it Nice? One of the French clubs. And then they own Botafogo in Brazil. And
he's been at Botafogo for
they loaned him to Brazil, and he stars, and they win South America.
Did they really?
Yes. With Almada starting.
Yeah.
So Almada doing amazing.
Yes.
Okay. You know who else has been one of the best players in Brazil?
Probably our center midfielder boy,
Santiago Sosa.
I missed him.
You know who's scoring goals? Araujo. You know who also has done really well? Right? Marcelino Moreno. All these guys who Pineda couldn't win with.
Oh my gosh, I forgot.
They're all done really well. I mean, Santiago Sosa, we couldn't even afford to keep him. They made like a $6 or $8 million bid to sign him permanently off the loan.
Yeah.
Oh man.
The guy who he wouldn't even play.
Yeah.
Who did he play over him?
All right. So let's.
Okay.
We can't.
Blood pressure.
We can't.
Sorry.
We can't.
Sorry.
We can't close out. We can't close out the podcast without a bet, right?
Ooh.
All right. Bring it.
So
let me actually keep track of these.
What are the odds that we have even one designated player playing in game one? Like not Marinchuk, but like a new designated player signing, like a true.
What are the odds? Are you going to say yes or no? You can't bet.
Yeah, yes or no. So a yes or no. Game one, they're playing. They start game one.
I think that we signed the first designated player by then, but not the second. And I think he's still getting visa and blah, 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 and is not available for game one.
Exactly. More importantly,
so I'm going to go with no.
Do we even have a player ready to go that's a DP level, a new
one
that's playing game one? Official MLS season game one?
No.
So this might not be much of a bet.
Oh, I don't have anything to bet you guys. I mean, I'd be contrary.
Just do your honest answer. Like
I thought you were going to bet us on like where we were going to finish. Now that you know the coach, but it's hard to bet without knowing the team. We're going to do a season preview, which we're going to do hopefully from Toco Hills Wild Heaven Brewery.
Yeah.
And if we do that, that's when we'll make our predictions for the season. At that point, we should know.
All right.
Yeah, but to have a new DP, all visa, everything, and you said end of February, so we're looking at like a
February
month,
22nd.
not even 2 months. It's not happening.
No, not happening.
No, might be close.
All right. Well, there's not a bet, but it's a prediction. So
we all went. No,
we talked about it all.
I think we did.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Gonna play us out.
So, Denny Rojas.
That's 14-foot limicrat.
Limicrat. Denny Rojas. Football is life, coach. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yoo-hoo. Y'all are troopers.
Podcast. Good one. That's a good one.